So we've wrapped up our functionality for our TP controller class and for our TP motor class, at least for this iteration of the TP character system. And now it's time for us to get those wired into our character and give them a test. Now the system isn't complete because we don't have any means to rotate the camera around just yet, but we can still test out that motion.
Right.
So let's give this a try.
Well, we jump back into Unity, select our character capsule, or whatever your character is called.
Right.
And to add the functionality to them, we just grab our TP controller, drag it in to our inspector, same with motor. As you can see, our motor now has a move speed. We can go and adjust this if we want to adjust our move speed. But that should be everything that we need to test functionality. So we hit play. And if you look very carefully, you can see our character is pointing along the z-axis. The moment that I hit any key to move them, if everything's working, the character should snap to be facing away from where the camera is looking. So if I hit W, you can see...
Well, yeah, you just see him turn right there.
Yep, he snaps. And if I push forward, he runs away from the camera. If I push backwards, he runs towards the camera.
Now you're using W, S, A, and D for all that.
Right, but I can also use the arrow keys.
Okay.
We don't have a gamepad or joystick hooked up, but
if we did, those would work too.
Right. And left and right, you know, left moves to the left of the camera, right moves to the right of the camera. So I can move in diagonals, and you can see that my diagonal speeds are no faster than any other direction.
And if you did have an analog gamepad or joystick of some sort, you could move in all the different variations of direction in between forward, backward, left, and right.
Right, but unfortunately keys don't have that ability.
Yeah, we don't have pressure-sensitive keys.
So, but there are a couple of things that we can do to verify what we were talking about as far as the functionality inside of the process motion.
Okay.
So if I jump back into Visual Studio and I bring up our TP motor, we've got our lines of calculation. I can comment out all of them except the actual move. And if I build this out and we go back to Unity and run, so at this point we're doing no calculations other than taking the move vector that our TP controller has built,
right,
and we're passing it right into moving.
So it's like straight from the inputs of the player right into the character.
Right. So if I hit W, you can see we're moving quite fast.
Yeah.
And this is based off of 1 unit per frame.
Okay.
So I have to go really slow or our character moves off screen very fast.
Yeah.
So as you can see though, if I push forward, we're moving forward in the z-axis.
Yeah, we're not moving toward and away from the camera.
Right. And if I push backwards, we're moving backwards. But you can also tell we're still snapping. Our character has rotated to face away from our camera. I can grab his Y, rotate him around, and the moment that I move, gotta click in the window. The moment I move,
he snaps back around.
He spins around.
Yeah.
So he's doing what he's supposed to, but because we're not transforming, it doesn't matter which way I'm pointing. He should be moving away from the camera.
Right.
But we're not transforming in the world space, so none of that is happening.
Gotcha.
So let's stop this, go back in. Let's uncomment the transform. So if I build this out, we jump back into Unity. Now the only bit of code that we have other than the snap to face the camera is transforming our inputs into that move vector and transforming it to world space relative to the character's rotation.
So you should be moving away from and then back toward the camera as you go forward and back.
Right. So, and actually it did not pick up the build. So I need to save it out again. Every once in a while Unity will not compile the code. So if you don't get what you're looking for or you made a change, odds are that is what the problem is. So
there we go.
So now he's moving away and towards the camera, left and right, but still at a really, really fast speed. And we haven't even adjusted the move speed. I could set this to 0, go back here, and I'm still moving. And so we know move speed's not playing any part of this.
Right.
So let me stop again. We'll jump back into our Visual Studio, we'll uncomment the next part.
Now this is just normalized, which would be a little tricky. If
right, I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I would uncomment delta time next.
Yeah. So we're going to uncomment delta time. So if I play now, we should be moving at a really, really slow speed.
Yeah.
And
because we're not multiplying by the magnitude yet.
Right. But if I move in a diagonal direction, our character speeds up. So we move slow.
Yeah, it'd be a little tricky to see, and I think it's going to be tricky to see however we do it, because it's one of those things you'd have to do over a considerable amount of time and really kind of move the camera with the player to notice that speed. But it is there. We are moving at, use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out the rate at which you'd be moving relative to the inputs coming in.
Right. I'm going to multiply it by our move speed to see if we can get a little bit more of a visual representation. So now we're moving a little bit faster, but
you can really feel it there when he goes diagonal.
So he's moving at one speed in our laterals, but the moment we pick up, he speeds up.
Yeah.
So it might still be hard to see because we're only capturing at 10 frames a second.
Sure, but if you were doing that on your end, it'd be real easy to feel how much faster he goes when he's running diagonally.
Right. Whoops. Bring that one back up. So the last bit of code is our normalize, which fixes that problem. So if we uncomment this, go ahead and save it out again, open up Unity, give it a sec to update if we hit play. So now when we move in diagonals, nope, didn't update. So once again, back over, make a small change, save it, change it out again, give it a sec to update. I'm going to hit Control R just to see if I can force it. Hit play.
And it looks like that caught it.
Yep. So now we've got our normalize in, so our diagonal speeds are going to be the same speeds as our laterals. Yep.
Which would also be a lot more important if you were using an analog joystick of some sort, because you'd have, at the extent of that analog joystick, you'd have the nice full 100% speed in whatever direction you happen to be hitting.
Right. So that has wired up our character. We now know he can move in all axis. The next thing we have to start looking at doing is getting the camera to orbit around them.
Okay, so from here we can focus our attention onto the TP camera class. That's going to wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.